Hi there! Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you my long-term experience with a piece of equipment that has quickly become part of my photography workflow, specifically the Epson EcoTank ET-8550 printer. I've had this printer for about a year now, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to share my experiences with it. The good, the excellent, and the small quirks that bug me. Now, this is not supposed to be a comprehensive review, but just my personal experience with the printer. And just to be upfront, on the overall, it was very good. Hopefully you will find this video useful if you are considering buying this printer or if you already have one. Speaking of some useful information, I'm planning a separate review of papers that I ended up using the most with this printer, and I'll publish it in a few weeks on my channel. So stay tuned and subscribe for that. If you're interested in more comprehensive information and review of the printer, I suggest visiting Keith Cooper's YouTube channel. I'll link to it below. He has published many videos on the subject of this printer, testing many papers and making many suggestions on how to get the maximum out of it. So check it out. With that, buckle up and let's go. Welcome back. So let's start with the basics. Why did I even buy this printer in the first place? As some of you may know, I'm primarily a landscape and travel photographer, and a significant part of my business relies on selling prints at art fairs. For a long time, I relied on external service to print my images. And honestly, I was happy with the results and the quality they provided. However, there is a big problem with this model. When I needed to print individual prints, or if I needed to tweak a print based on the results, it was just too inconvenient to do it outside with an outside lab. So I wanted the ability to print at home. Printing at home also offers the opportunity to explore different papers and to best match between the image and the substrate you're printing. So it's just much more convenient and offers the flexibility to improve your photography. One of my best seller sizes is 12 by 18 matted print. As a result, when I started looking, I really wanted a printer that could print at least 13 by 19 inch. And that narrowed down to a few big players. Apart from Epson ET-8550, I seriously considered also Epson P900 and P5370, and also the Canon ProGraph Pro 1000. Now there is a new version of that printer which is called Pro 1100. Apart from the ET8550, all the other printers I mentioned are pigment-based. They offer excellent print quality and print longevity, but they also all share the same downsides, which is a huge initial investment and very expensive ink. One other minor consideration was that I wanted to use the printer for regular office use, such as printing documents from time to time and scanning. Now, I could have bought a second smaller printer just for office uses, but I didn't want to have two printers in my office. And from this point of view, ET8550 was very attractive. I seriously considered buying the Epson ET8550 because I saw many good reviews on YouTube and on the web. However, I was still going back and forth because of one major concern, which is print longevity. That was until a while back I saw a video by Keith Cooper about print longevity with the modern dye-based inks. I'll link the video below so you can check it out for yourself. That video put my fears to rest, and I ended up buying the printer. When the printer arrived, the first thing that struck me was how compact it was, especially when folded. It doesn't take that much space on your desk at all. The installation and the initialization process was pretty straightforward and easy to follow. Epson did a great job with that. The key feature of the printer is, of course, its ink bottles. Filling up the ink is very easy and mess-free. For regular printing, the printer is very responsive and very quick, even on the Wi-Fi, and it poses no issues whatsoever. So that takes care of my office needs, and I'm not gonna dwell on that. Suffice it to say that for photo printing, the printer is just as responsive. I generally use Epson print layout software, or EPL. You can use it as a standalone or as a plugin with Photoshop, which I usually do. EPL is very easy to use, it's straightforward, but it has one minor annoyance. When you print color, there is no way to adjust your image in the print software, and you really need to go back to to Photoshop. This is a minor annoyance, but not a deal breaker for me. What's interesting is that in the advanced black and white mode, or ABW, the software does have several options to adjust your image if you want to tweak the print. If I need more adjustments, I can always go back to Photoshop. One thing that sometimes comes up in the different reviews of the printer is the paper feeding mechanism. So far, it hasn't been a problem for me, but it might depend on the paper that you're using, so be careful. Now, let's talk about the big one, the ink use. One of the biggest attractions of this printer is that it doesn't use cartridges but ink bottles, which significantly reduces ink cost. Now, it does use a little bit of ink during the initialization process, but what's great is that Epson provided enough ink in the bottles to top off the tanks after you're done. This way, you don't need to run and buy another set of ink immediately. Now, I print a decent amount. For example, last year I printed about 150 cards, but it's not a huge amount, so your mileage may vary. I'm still on my first set of inks, but I am running low on the gray ink. Gray ink is used the most, not just in black and white, but also in color images to get smoother color gradations. The other inks are at least half full at this stage, so you get the idea how long they last. Overall, the ET8550 really eliminates all the ink worries. Your main expense becomes quality paper. My suggestion is to get yourself a pack of 4x6-inch paper, which you can use for sample prints until you are happy with the result. These sample prints are much easier and faster to print, and it allows you to dial in your settings before printing large. One regular concern for people who print at home is printhead clogging. Now, I print almost weekly, so I don't have that issue, but based on what I saw in reviews online, even if you leave your printer off for a while, you should be fine. Now let's talk about print quality. As you will see in the reviews online, and I can attest to that, the print quality of this printer is excellent, especially when you choose the right papers to work with it. As expected from a dye-based printer, it produces excellent vibrant prints on glossy and semi-gloss paper. Now, because the ink set is relatively small, I did notice that it sometimes struggles with some oranges and purples that fall out of gamut. But overall, excellent results. What was a little more surprising to me is just how good this printer was with some art papers. Now, you do need to find the right papers and to have good profiles to get best results. But the results with some of the art papers that I found are just excellent. If you want a little more details about printing on art papers, check out this video here or at the link below. I will also publish a more detailed review of some papers from Red River Paper, so subscribe for that and check it out. What's probably even more surprising is just how good this printer is for black and white. Normally, dye-based printers are not that great with black and whites, but ET8550 does a good job. Now, I do find sometimes that I see tint on some of the black and white images depending on the light, but that's pretty typical for a dye-based printer. Generally, I found that using the advanced black and white mode, or ABW, gives me more neutral, better results on this printer. If you're interested in a video about me printing black and white images for an exhibit, check it out here or in the description below. As I mentioned before, you really need to find the right papers to get the most out of this printer. I started with the Epson Ultra Premium Photoluster paper, which I also suggest you do when you're just starting out. I also suggest printing a few test images. One of them you can download from Keith Cooper's website, Northlight Images. Printing the test image really allows you to ease into printing and to see how the printer works. After I finished with the test prints, I got a sample pack from Red River Paper. I took their photo sample pack and added a few art papers that they recommend for the Epson ET8550. This is a good way to see which papers work better for you and which images work better on which papers. In addition, as I mentioned, I suggest getting a pack of 4x6s and use them as test prints before you go on to print large. Now, some papers do work better than others, and you need to figure out what you like for yourself. I generally found that luster and glossy papers work great, with minimal need for adjustment. However, I didn't really like the results on matte photo paper. When I wanted a matte look to my images, I really prefer the look of art papers to the photo paper. However, this is a personal choice and your mileage may vary. I also had a few Hahnemühle papers left from the sample pack that I had from the past. Most of them work well. However, most of them also have a minor problem that I will mention later in the annoyances section. More recently, I tried Epson Velvet Fine Art paper, and wow, this paper has become one of my favorite papers so far on this printer. Check out the video here where I printed 2 color images for an exhibit. Now, one downside of the Epson Velvet Fine Art is the paper size selection. Unfortunately, there is only few sizes available. But what can you do? Like everything else, Epson ET8550 is not perfect. There are a few minor annoyances that I found while using it. One really minor thing is that when the printer is not in use, it goes to sleep. Now this is fine, but sometimes because of that it loses connection while on the Wi-Fi network. I don't know if this issue is a problem on a wired connection as well, but it is solved by restarting the printer. The second really small issue is the gray ink. Now, as I mentioned, it runs out much faster than the other inks, and you need to buy it separately. It's available, but it's less common than a set. So, and be careful that you buy the original Epson ink rather than the substitutes. Now, the biggest issue that I've encountered, and it's not a huge one, is the pizza wheel marks on some papers. These are faint indentation left by feeding rollers on some papers. Now, the biggest thing is that these marks are unpredictable. You never know in advance whether they will appear on a certain paper or not. Generally, they appear on thicker papers with softer coating, and they are more apparent on glossy papers. But it is hard to predict. In most cases, the marks are very faint, and you really need to look at the print at a certain angle towards the light to see them, and they are not visible behind glass. However, you know that they are there, and that's enough of a bummer. As I mentioned earlier, I found these marks on most of the Hahnemühle papers, and that's a bummer. Fortunately, they don't appear on the lighter version of the William Turner paper that I'm using, so that's great. But it does limit your paper choice. So, all things considered, after almost a year of consistent use, I'm really happy with the Epson ET8550 printer. It's easy to operate, it consistently does what I need it to do, and it produces great quality prints of my travel and landscape photography. Now, the ink use is really negligible and really not a concern at all. For someone like me who needs the flexibility to print high quality prints for art fairs at home, the ET8550 was a real winner. Hopefully this look at my experiences with the ET8550 was useful for you, and if you are considering buying it, check out my other videos on printing. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Stay tuned for a more detailed review of the Red River papers that I'm using, coming very soon on the channel. As always, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.